Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 136 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Miss Kim Herbst. She's an illustrator from San Francisco, California. And of course, before I begin by asking the first question, I need to quickly give a shout out, to her Etsy. I even put the link down in the below. Like, if you want to support the artist you're seeing on this guest, you can go to the Etsy. Maybe February 13th. I think that's Valentine's is coming up. Maybe you can buy a gift from there. I don't know if your significant other is into art and illustration, or maybe get something for yourself for decorations. Go buy something. Just go. Shoot. All right, sorry.
Awesome.
Let's go to the first question. Give us a little introduction on how you got into visual arts and design.
Oh wow! It's probably a really common story. Like, all kids draw, like little kids draw, and then a bunch of them stop drawing, and then there's the couple kids that just can't stop drawing, and that was me. And basically decided to get into illustration from I guess watching lots of animated movies, cartoons, anime, Disney stuff, and then also kind of seeing it cross over into video games and children's books and everything else. It was whatever job is out there that is can I draw for it? That's what I want to do. And pretty much went to college for that, and got a BFA in illustration. And every professor at that time, upon graduation, was super hardcore about freelance illustration, editorial stuff for magazines. That's because that's what they did. And it was oh, that's what I should do. And then I proceeded to fail horribly at that when I graduated, and the recession happened, so that was not helpful. But yeah, it was literally I'm gonna go to New York and I'm just gonna try and make it, and then just starve. But yeah, I ended up getting into video games as a result, and do that full time. But I still like to freelance on the side, and it's oh, it's great. I get to draw in my own style and everything that way. But yeah, 2 times in my career, I have tried to just do it full time, and it's been bad. But I mean, you can still draw for a living. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, awesome. And just wondering, what genres of video games are you really into? Both as a consumer and also as someone who's behind the back end of the work.
So I love, I love all the Zelda games. I love, I just finished Breath of the Wild finally. I'm very, very late on that. Love JRPGs and, adventure games, board games too, as well. But my career is in mobile games, just because of the knowledge that I have. All the original games that I first got into in New York were old school Flash web games. That was all the rage when I had graduated college, and so it just was the easiest transition with all the information that I already had to go into that. But it's funny because I don't really play many mobile games. It's just that's just the thing that was yep, they got the job and I've got the knowledge. Let's do this. But yeah, that's just what I do. But then on the freelance side, I do things for National Geographic and Google and some comic covers, I think, that I've done, and just like newspapers and things. So yeah, it's kind of all over.
All right, awesome. And were you when you were 17, 18, those are some serious, periods of time, in everyone's life that they start to think about their future, what they want to be, what they want to do. They want to go to college, they want to take an apprenticeship, what they want to do. That's the important, critical, years of, anyone's life. Usually, right, at this, couple of past generations. Yeah. Not always, of course. And for you, like, did you know from then that you wanted to go to the arts route, or you wanted to go to college, or your plan was different? Maybe you thought, maybe, all right, I'm gonna go to something more stable so I later can do art on the side. Like, how was it for you?
I gotta do art. It's like art or bust. I'm gonna. I was like, I couldn't think. Like, even if people ask me, like, if you didn't do art, like, what, like, when you grew up, like, what would you do as a career? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, maybe writing. Like, it's something that's like creative, but like art was always on the forefront because it was. It's like one of the only ways that I felt like I could express myself, that people might be able to understand me better. But like at that age, it was a very contentious topic. Like, my parents were supportive, but I at the time had a few friends that were not so supportive. And I think I partially went into a career out of spite. Like, when you have somebody that tells you, when you tell someone your dreams, your goals, and they reply back with, you can't do that. That's not a real job. You can't just draw characters and things for a living. Like that, it's just like a gut punch to hear somebody say that. And I think I went on like a journey of like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And which I do not highly recommend, like starting off a career like based solely on spite. But it is like a good like jump start of just like, I want to do this thing. And it's not just to like prove other people wrong. It's like to prove myself right that I can do it. And I decided on college because, when I was taking art classes back in public education, for high school, and, I wanted like a better direction. I didn't want just somebody saying like, great, you completed the assignment, you get an A. I wanted to go somewhere where I was going to get like a very cohesive understanding. I basically wanted a place that was going to kick my ass, in a sense. Like, I needed somebody to get me in gear, in which a couple of the professors where I attended at Maryland Institute College of Art, they definitely kicked my ass, in a good way. It was very necessary. Yeah. So that was kind of like where it started. It was like having people tell you, no, you can't do that. That's not a real job. And you decide, I'm gonna get a job where I just draw all day, and that's that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you kind of managed to achieve that goal. And well, I mean, there's something else like that came into mind. Like, if you could right now talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to her, like as an advice or something, like those big, really life-changing advices that if someone gave you at 18 would have like really helped?
I think I would. Well, first and foremost, I'd say it's going to be okay. That would definitely be like the greatest amount of advice that I could give my 18-year-old self. Like, like, yes, things are awful. It'll be okay. But I think I would tell myself that I have to stop giving excuses for not working so hard. Like, one of the greatest excuses I've said, and I'm sure lots of other artists have said, if you get any type of criticism and you would instinctively just reaction would be like, well, that's my art style. And you don't want to go into it. You just say, well, that's just the way I draw. And I would probably tell my 18-year-old self, like, look, if there's 5 to 10 random people that have all said you need to work on your anatomy, and these people are not in the same room together, they're just telling you, and they're all saying the same thing, you maybe should take a step back and consider the critique. You don't have to take every single line of like critique from every random person, but if 10 people are saying the same thing, like, take a step back and just like listen. Your career will get going about 10 years faster. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
And,
that'd be the best advice I could say.
well, I mean, that's great. But here's the thing. We've right now, we've covered, your past and how you like got into this whole thing. But now let's ask something about now. What is your main branch of design that you're focusing on now? And tell us about your experience from the start of it until now. I mean, of course, in the introduction, it's no a secret that you're an illustrator as of now. But what type of illustrator? What area? Just tell us everything.
Oh, yeah. I think I just it's kind of like whatever comes my way at this point. Because I mean, I wish I could get into some bigger projects. I'd love to do a graphic novel. I feel like I don't have the patience though to actually sit down and plan it out and get it out. I keep saying that I'm going to do something like that. And I don't know, it's like suddenly like a decade went by and it was like, damn, like where did that time go and why didn't I do this project? But I'd love to get more into animation. Like that'd be really, really cool. Either like backgrounds or character design, like just like putting my skill sets towards that. It just sounds really, really awesome. And there seems to be like so many more opportunities nowadays. That's like really, really cool. Yeah, I think there's so many other outlets I feel like I haven't like touched upon, like gotten that opportunity yet. And I don't know. It's like everything and anything. I've never even done a Google Doodle like of the day, and like that would be really, really cool. Like to get that as like an assignment. But yeah, it's like anything that comes my way, I think is like an awesome, exciting opportunity. And yeah, it's like why not? So yeah.
All right. And about to ask something about your design process. Like, how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a new, project, maybe both personal and also professional? I was wondering, like, what does the structure of your pipeline usually looks?
So if it's for a client, I think I work pretty similarly if it's a personal project too. The first and foremost thing to ask that I do is, aside from the usual stuff of hey, what's your budget and what's your time frame, and let's get a contract together, because that's absolutely key. First and foremost, I ask them if you could describe in 3 words what you want this illustration to convey. What is the feeling that you want people to feel when they look at this? And you have to list it in 3 to 5 words. You have to narrow it down to that. And when they get that out, it's okay, we have the mood that they want, and that can really affect what's the composition, what's the perspective, what's the colors and tones that we want to go with this. Because if you want people to feel a certain way when they look at something, you can, as an illustrator, you can sort of push them in that direction. So that's absolutely the way that I get started. And then doing thumbnail sketches that can try my best to convey those adjectives that they've given me. And then narrowing that down, however many that I've come up with, I usually narrow it down to sending a client 2, maybe 3. Less is more in that respect. I feel like if you send a client too many sketches, it gets messy, or they choose, or 9 times out of 10 they choose the weakest composition for whatever reason, and it's not their fault. It's just that they were given too many options. So yeah, just getting that squared away first and foremost. I think that makes the process 1,000 times easier. and then taking it from there. But yeah, I think the process is pretty much the same thing. If it was just personal artwork, I kind of tell myself like, what are the three words? Like, what do I want people to feel when they see this? Like, what emotions and sensations do you want somebody to, to experience when they view artwork? So yeah.
All right, and that's actually quite helpful for any upcoming illustrator who wants to, take client works and stuff. So to anyone who's listening, take notes, definitely. And all right, the next question is kind of an interesting one. What was the first art job paycheck you've ever gotten? What was it for, and how did you feel at the time when you got it? That basically the first salary you made out of art, doing art. The story of it.
I mean, there was I definitely hustled some kids in high school for sketches and got $5 or something. And I don't know if that really counts because there was no contract that was involved. It sort of varies. The first job that I had in artwork when I first graduated college was actually painting store signs for Trader Joe's grocery store in Maryland, a single location. And we did the murals and store signs and everything on the inside. And I was paid for that, as a grocery store employee. That was my job, was just to paint store signs. And I was this is a transitional thing. And it only lasted I think half a year or so. But I think one of the first freelance jobs, I'm really trying to rack my brain. I think it was for Oxford University Press, and it was a children's educational materials thing. It was to help kids learn how to read, and it was about historical figures, and everything had to be super accurate, the way they were dressed in whatever time period. And I think there was one that involved pirates, and I wasn't allowed to show them with any revolvers, no guns or anything, because it was for little kids. And I was this is supposed to be historically accurate. This doesn't seem very accurate. And then it was how about we have swords? And then we had to cut all the swords out. So it was a very bizarre thing, but that was my first actual, I think, paycheck as a freelancer. That was very, very exciting, but also very odd to have something be super historically accurate for all the clothing and appearance of all the ships and everything, and then it was the weapons had to all be scrapped.
All right. I mean, you could literally instead of guns, you could have drawn bananas and fruits, and they would probably like it, And yeah, I mean, kids don't really care about historical accuracy.
Yeah, there was an illustration of one of the pirates, he had to walk the plank, which was accurate, historically accurate. I guess they did that. But they were supposed to be forcing him off with a weapon, and instead they're all pointing and laughing at him. And I felt that was even worse. I was this seems just anxiety ridden. This seems terrible. But yeah, that's somewhere out there, in a book, as an educational material for kids to learn about pirates, historical pirates. And there's no weapons, but there's a guy that's just being shamed and laughed at, off to walk the plank somewhere, that I drew a million years ago.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of weird, because pointing and laughing as a group mentality at someone, that's even a worse lesson to teach the kids.
Yeah, exactly. So
all right, now we've talked about freelance work, and actually my next thing I want to ask is also about freelancing. And what is your experience of freelancing? And also we kind of agreed that we should also talk about the subject of setbacks as well, which was tied to this.
Yeah.
And so if you could indulge us as much as information as you could, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I failed twice. I quit a steady paycheck and was I'm just gonna make it on my own type of thing, and really tried, sent out, cold cold call, emails, cold emails to art directors and stuff. And I was never capable of bringing in enough income to make ends meet. It was really like feast or famine a lot of the time, where it was like either you'd get like 5 freelance jobs at the same time, and you're struggling to give the best quality that you can. And then suddenly there'd be like a 2-month period of like, there's absolutely nothing, even though you're, sending your work out everywhere and advertising and everything. But I don't feel nearly as bad as I used to, especially after conversing with like other illustrators. 99% of other freelancers that I talk to, they have a job. They have a part-time job. They're teaching. They're teaching at a school, and they have something that gives them some form of steady paycheck. And I realized like that's, it's almost a myth nowadays. And for freelancing, unfortunately, the rates haven't gone up over the last 10 years or so. They've been really, really stagnant. So I realized, you can get like a spot illustration in a newspaper or a half-page illustration in a newspaper. And I realized it'd been like 10 years and the rates were still the same. They'd never gone up. And it was like, how can that be? Like it can't possibly be the same page rate after 10 years, but they were still offering the same amount. And it's like, you just can't live off of that if all the other prices of everything have gone up, unfortunately. But that got into like a very negative tone. I still love doing those types of projects. I think being an illustrator, I think we get to be problem solvers for people. I think, we get to create something and resolve a problem, like a visual problem, for a client. And I think the best clients that I've had, have been either like a very large company and there's very little revisions that are needed, and it's like great, like you bang it out and you have like 1 or 2 minor revisions and then you get paid, and you get paid well, and it's great. And then there's the smaller commissions that I think can go vastly either way, where you really nailed it out of the park, and you've gotten like this problem solved for somebody, and it might be like their self-published book cover or something, and it's a great accomplishing feeling to help somebody visualize like their part of their project. And the other end of that, unfortunately, is where you're trying to problem solve it, and the client maybe has something very, very specific in their mind, and I'm unable to visually read what's in their mind. And you just try your absolute hardest, and sometimes it's just not possible to come to like a middle ground on that front. So that's, I think, like the really troubling, unfortunate part of like freelancing, is like wrestling with that part.
All right. And now there's something like I recently started like asking artists to do like on the podcast, which is this is kind of a reward for anyone who's watching this on YouTube. Or that's the only place I upload the podcast like as a video version. Could you please show us some of your recent works on your sketchbook?
Sure. I don't know if they're recent, but
yeah, it doesn't matter. I just said that unnecessarily. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I was saying like I don't have anything. Well, again, that was really just like this page, and maybe like a couple other things. But I actually use my sketchbook. It's more for just figuring out a composition on something, and so literally just like the same thing over and over again. just lots of boxes. You're just going to see lots and lots of boxes and just laying out information. And that's literally all my sketchbooks. I have to do that portion on paper. Because if I do it digitally, I start zooming in and focusing on all the details, and I'm not supposed to do that at that portion of the process. Like, you just want to get the composition down. So it has to be done on paper and pen. And so that's like all my sketchbooks now is just like boxes. It's just like things like very messily sketched out inside of them. So yeah.
All right, awesome. Thanks for taking the time and showing us your sketches. And all right, the next question is: have you ever used your dreams as inspiration for your works? I mean, not fever dreams like mine, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually have, like, with the fever dream stuff. I've done a bunch of that things. Yeah, those. Yeah, I think the majority of my work is that my personal work anyway. Just you get to do whatever you want in your own style. You know, nobody can stop you. You don't have like a budget constraint or anything. It's like, if you want to draw people in like the craziest costumes ever and like the craziest vehicles and the craziest environments, like that's like, you know, you just get to go for it and just do whatever you want. So yeah, I think it's like you live the dream all day, every day if you just take the time to do that.
All right. And who are your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Oh, wow. I think there's a mixed bag between like living and then like old. So the current living ones, I think, and I'm probably butchering his name, is Tomer Hanukkah, I believe, is one. He's a fantastic illustrator. God, and I did love Yuko Shimizu's work, like way back in the day. Deceased illustrators, I think it's Henry Clark, I think, was like around the time of like Art Deco and everything. He was mostly known for like stained glass windows, but like he did really, really great like ink block work. Any Japanese ink block work as well. And super inspired by like Chinese landscape paintings from back in the, you know, like way back in the day. God, I'm trying to think. There's just like so many artists. And like, I think like colleagues that like literally friends that I've worked with or have known over the last couple of years, like Ryan Johnson is one, and like Heather Houghton, she's another one. But yeah, there's just too many to list off.
All right. I mean, it's fine. It's one of those difficult questions, so don't worry if you couldn't come up with anything. But usually, whenever I ask this question, like I don't even, by the way, like sometimes when guests ask, you know, can I have the questions before? And I usually suggest them to don't look at the questions. But if they are persistent, of course, I'll send them. But when I don't tell you the question and I present you and put you on the spotlight with this, you might not come up with many answers, but you will come up with one or two answers, and those one or two are usually the actual real answers, you know, because it's something that's come from your, you know, subconscious, you know.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna like come back and like message on Instagram and be like, like missed like these like 2 or 3 people, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's fun, definitely. And by the way, I want to apologize to the podcast listeners or viewers for my sound being a bit nasally congested. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, I'm in pain right now. Yeah, I have a really bad cold, and yeah, sorry about that. It'll be fixed soon. And well, what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project is it? I mean, of course, if there's no NDAs involved, then you can talk freely about it.
Let's see. one or two things are under NDA. I can't talk about those. One was a book cover, which was exciting. And another thing was like, it was like for a YouTube video, but I definitely can't talk about that one. Shoot. I am currently working on a mobile game that's fun and about farming and puzzle pieces and stuff, and that's like pretty fun and exciting as well. Working on a short personal, like super personal comic that's probably never going to get finished. It's like going as slow as molasses. I have a show, I think, that a gallery show, it's either this year or next year, that I hope to make some artwork for. It's all fan art for old school video games. So gonna pick and choose an old school video game to portray in my own style, and then those get sold off as limited edition prints. I think that's it. I think that's all I have currently going on right now.
All right. And what area beside the area you're working on right now, which is of course art and illustration, would you be interested to explore and learn in the future?
Outside of it? Wow. That's a good question. I don't know. Anything that's like out, maybe like out in nature, like it's like foraging. Is that like a thing you can do? I guess learn how to forage, like just like learning all the different types of like plants and like what is edible and what's not edible, and like just survival type stuff. Like that would be like super fun to do as a project. And then of course like it just ends up being like I just want to go outside and like paint like while doing it. So it's like it's still related to art. But yeah, I think that would be fun. It's just like you just go walk off into the horizon line and see like just like not be one with nature, but literally like learn about it and understand all of it.
Yeah, and I don't know, for some odd reason when you said foraging, my mind jumped back into like, those illustrations from back in the 60s and the 70s, like, with the theme of like foraging and just, jungles, like mysterious ones. I don't know, for some reason that those are popular in illustration, Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and actually a really good place, like, and one of the, I think, if I'm not mistaken, heavens for foragers, like, hobbies foragers, is, I think, Romania, if I'm not mistaken, because it's filled with jungles with different mushrooms and just animals and everything.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and all right.
Yeah.
We've reached the final question of the podcast, final section of the podcast, which is called Final Four Words.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to explain what it means. Basically, right now, imagine you have like a limited amount of time, and in that limited amount of time, you can say from yourself as a human to another human being. And that human being is anyone who's currently listening to the podcast in the future, at any point in the future.
Okay.
In that situation, what messages would you like to give them, or advice would you like to give them, or maybe just you have just one advice? Like, doesn't matter. What would you say, basically?
Oh, God, I think if you're on the fence about getting into a creative career, it is a bit uphill battle. I mean, I'm proof of that, but it's practicing a craft, and you get like a little better at it, every day. And over the course of time, it's just like the end result is very much worth it. And I think that the chances of people getting into a creative career now in comparison to 15 years ago is vastly higher. There's so many more opportunities that that exist now, with I think with like streamers and VTubers and YouTube and Instagram and Patreon and like all these other things. Like it's just like incredible. And I think that people just have a wealth of knowledge now, where they can learn and take in these skills. And I don't think you need to attend college, like a private institution or anything anymore. I think that people can perfectly get the information. I think it's harder now though to really narrow down what your focus is. But I think if anybody was on the fence about it, I'm apprehensive because it's like it's really scary. Like there's like a chance of like failing and stuff, but like it's not the end of the world, and your life won't be over if you haven't gotten it yet, and you just turned 30 or something. Like you're gonna be okay. I think that's the best advice, and that's what I would say to anybody listening to this podcast.
All right, awesome. So if you're on the fence about it, just give it a shot. You don't know what will happen, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, you may as well. Like, I've known. I mean, I had a stable career, and I still got laid off. And it was like, well, like it happens. Like, you may as well just like go into the thing that you dream about. Like, you may as well just go for that.
Yeah. And all right, thank you so much for coming back to this podcast. It was a real pleasure. And also thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode or watched it on YouTube. As usual, if there's any comments or suggestions or critiques, leave them down in the comments below. And also, one last time, I want to give a shout out to the Etsy shop again. Please check it out. It's in the captions below. And if you're interested, maybe you want to buy a postcard or just anything, go check it out. Like, they look good. Just trust me. And well, that's it. Thanks again, everyone. Take care. Have a good day. See you next episode. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks.